So when I see a story on stage, and there is that something in that story that disturbs me, or that I really like, but usually it's when I dislike it, there is something there for me. Something there for me that I should go deeper in. And if the actors are able to engage me in that means I'm going to remember. And remembering process is incredibly unique. Remembering means to get inspired to move inside and outside. So in a community, having a group of people that can embrace the story emerging from that community, embracing and facing humanity, it's an incredible medicine. And I'm talking about medicine in Native American terms. Is a power. Because in that way, the alchemists transform energy, make it accessible and root the energy deep, so that it can become the energy to get impulses out and make new roots and make new adventures, changes in us and in the community. So many communities, the majority of communities in the world, as a group of people, doing this. One of my intentions is to really have a group here that can do this purpose, that can fulfill this purpose, and restore this ancient meaning of theater I talked to you about. The witnessing, the dialogue, and the land dialogue, engaging with the land. That doesn't mean that we all have to go out and do theater outside. We have to start inside, actually. And then we can go out. So when we go out and we have received some training and we know how to hold the energy, and we go out and we express this archetypal self to the land, with the land, then we are beginning a moving prayer. We dance with the land. We accept ourselves on the land. During the procession that we made together, and these are some of the theater questers, I like to this term, questers, we did last week. There was a woman from Namibia that came. Her name is Mama Visolela. And Mama Visolela came to me after, and she said to me, I know what this work is about. It's connecting the inner soul to the land. And this is so needed that I'm gonna go back to Namibia and I'm gonna do procession on the land exactly as you're doing it here. Because we need to remember as a collective. So when we do that, when we are able to embrace this archetypal, we also see the fragility of humanity, the weakness of humanity. But we somehow transform the sense of shame and guilt into something else, into rebirth. And what we do, we use that energy to open into a new realm, which first of all is called forgiveness. Forgiveness is a realm, like mercy and compassion. And what is happening is an act of love, where we present fragility and weakness, and we put our willingness there to really see that, acknowledge that, honor that, and honor that in connection with the land. The transformation starts inside and then goes outside. And I do believe that a procession, which is one ancient form of theater, one ancient form of prayer, is one of the many ways that the eco-theater, that the theatering community can embrace. It's not the only one. We can do other sacred representation of humanity. I would like now to show you a small video from a community. This community is a community of Montichiello in Tuscany. A long time ago, they started, at the end of the 60s, they started to do something with theater. Why? Because their wound, their collective soul created a deep wound. They didn't have any jobs. The farmers didn't have any work. There were a lot of unemployed people. They were in crisis as a community. So they decided to do theater. How crazy and beautiful is that? They started to gather in the CC, in the community center, to discuss what to do. And they built a theater in the square. And every night they were going in the square and start improvising. They were discussing what theme, and then they were inviting all the villagers to watch. And what they put on stage first was their crisis. Their crisis. What we are not. What we are and what we are not. So that the others could imagine what we can become. And they will be going on now until now. They are still keep going. Obviously they transformed, they changed. But when they go into theater, they say, let's go to the square. Andiamo in piazza. Let's go to the square. Sharing. So I would like to show you this small video.
My first question is, how and where did theater originate? And what was its function?
It was originated like that in the cave. It was very much, the first recall is what we have from images of people in a circle. What they were doing, we don't know. Then we recall from the Greek, the first few reports that we got is from glimpse of what was happening, and it was obviously in connection with equinox, solstice, moon, sun. There was something always there. The Greek theater, for example, was created and positioned specifically in a way that there was the sunset, a specific moment of the representation, or dawn. So it was really connected with the land. And they needed to be open air, and they needed to be there, not because they were not able to build roofs.
So they were religious festivals, and what was their function?
The function was exactly to remind of the of humanity, of that circle, of that community, who they are, who we are. It was in that particular, whatever was the story, the idea was to be able to put the human in touch with what is non-human. Create a dialogue. Their representation was always created in a way. There was the goddess, there was the human, there was the chorus. And also what we are trying to do, a very simple and with a lot of humbleness, but the chorus as that function of filtering through the energy between the goddess and the human somehow. And the idea, this is only the Greek, there are many other traditions, Native American, Aboriginal people, everywhere in the world, the gathering of people around the fire, telling story, and then at one point raising up from sitting and manifesting, expressing in their body the story, was really their celebration and their contact with something much deeper, the inner soul, and the spirit, presenting themselves to the spirit. And in that way there was a recognition of their identity, which is what we lost. We don't know who we are anymore, and that it was a way to recognize who we are. If you go in the woods, I'm actually going to give you a little exercise I would like to offer, and please, if you have the possibility to do it, and then you let me know. After this hour, please go in the woods or go in nature and go in specific points that you choose, near a bush, near a tree, and tell that tree one secret of yours, something that nobody knows about you. So please now, think of your secret. Think of what is the secret you would like to go there. Obviously, keep it secret. Just think of it. What is that one thing that today you are willing to share to the tree, to the ocean, to the rocks? And then imagine if your secret would become a story, where your archetypes, where your character, which is now you, will become eternal and universal. And that character will be able to create a dialogue with other witnesses, with other humans, and with the land. And there, that secret will become truth recognized. It is a rising of consciousness.
I would have called some of what you talked about ritual even more than theatre. So
You're right.
Where, for you, is there, where do they mesh, or do you think theatre originally came out of ritual and
Definitely. And I think that that's the reason I use the word sacred stage as a way where I put together, I try to put together ritual and theatre. Maybe eco-theatre is the right word. You know, we have to move from the ego to eco. And I think that, through this process we do. So I want to honor rituals. So I don't want to be misinterpreted, because some people maybe hold secret of rituals here. And I also want to honor the primal purpose of theatre, which was the ceremony. So they basically have to merge. In ritual, as much as in theatre, we have witnesses. So I'm talking about that kind of theatre. So for the moment, as is really on an early stage, I call it eco-theatre. And I'm really open for your suggestion, for your inspirations, your comments about what we can go forward with that. Yeah.
I was wondering about the questers. If the idea of the healing and it's medicinal, I don't know if any one of them were happy to speak about the experience of doing that work with you and how that manifested in their particular life.
I'd like to say something. And my experience of the whole procession and the movement towards it. I found that the monologues, certainly mine, and I think it's the experience of my colleagues, were amazingly apt for each of us.
Who wrote them?
Well, various. They were from various
Chekhov.
sources. For me, it was a very interesting process of feeling very identified with the monologue, but also going through this process of actually realising that I wasn't that monologue. And part of the time, I think I got so involved with it, I thought, I am just this monologue. This is who I am now. And people would come up to me and talk to me, and I'd start quoting from the monologue. And that still happens. But now this process is finished, for me, I have this very clear sense of actually, no, I'm not this monologue. Though it is an expression of me and a part of that sense, I'm actually separate from it. I don't have to hold that wound. That wound is not totally who I am. That wound is part of me, and I honour that wound that monologue represented, but I'm not totally that wound. And I have to be free of it, but also own it at the same time. And that's my own experience.